So essentially, with my false twin experience, it was not like that we actually verbally proposed to each other, but I was very heavily attracted towards him. I felt he was very heavily attracted towards me, and I assumed that the reason why he's giving excuses to visit us is more about me than anyone else, because everyone else was married or dating someone else. So that's why I assumed he's interested in me. And then, because that assumption was made, circumstances played out in such a way that now he was not only a false twin flame of mine, he was also a very heavy level karmic of mine, because of which he manipulated the whole scenario to make it seem as if he is in love with me, he is interested in me, he wants to date me. He took me on a double date with another friend who was dating someone I knew. So like we went with some common friends for a date, and I felt that all he was doing was he was using his sexual power on me. So because he was using his sexual energy and power on me, and I was a very naive girl, I assumed that this means love. So which is what, if someone is a manipulative false twin flame or a strong high level karmic to you, they will manipulate you into confessing love towards them, which is what happened to me. Then I confessed my love for him during Valentine's Day, which was a few months later. And in Valentine's Day, while I convinced my love to him, and during the whole time he was like kind of manipulatively love bombing me, or pretending like every time, like how everyone else is dating as a normal couple, he was doing that with me. So now everyone else assumes in our group that I am dating him and he's dating me, so means that we have confessed our love to each other, or at least that everyone knows we are interested in each other. So while many people knew we are interested in each other or we are attracted towards each other, and then we were living in US, so we were kissing each other, holding hands, going and doing certain things, eating lunches together, dinner together, going shopping together. Shopping meaning grocery shopping, I was not the shopping kind. So whatever it was, we would do all these activities together in the couple of months that unfolded until Valentine's Day, where you will expect that because you are dating each other, that he's going to confess love. And it's been a few months, right? So it's not as if he had known me for a longer than the few months we had dated. So for many months he has known me. For half of that time we were just simply friends, and for the rest half we were kind of dating. And I was deeply in love, so I confessed my love, whereas he didn't confess his love. And in fact, he later on, after even though he didn't, he gave me a card which was more like a friendship card than a love card to a lover. And I was disappointed. But again, when you are blindly in love with someone, and when you are having a false twin experience or a one-sided love experience, what happens is you are looking at that person with rose-colored glasses. And because you are looking at the person with rose-colored glasses, you will not perceive and see that while you are deeply in love with them, they are not deeply in love with you. They might be playing you. They might be actually just manipulating you into a love experience rather than really loving you. So which is what unfolded in that whole relationship journey. It was a very painful journey. It took me a long time to heal out of it and realize realistically what was wrong in that relationship, that whatever my depth of love for him, his depth of love for me was not going to be the same in that body experience with him, in our these two, he let's say his name is Mr. X and me, X1 and me, let's say, because he was first boyfriend. First, X1 and me were never going to have a experience beyond just the physical manipulative experience, or a very false illusion of love experience, or a sexual pull related experience, because he could sexually magnetize me very easily. I fell for him very easily. I confessed, I was that deeply in love that whatever that person would have and when you are that deeply in your first love, or in a very deep loving experience towards someone, even if they are doing wrong in life, you continue to believe that that wrong is also right for you, because you are so deeply in love. And this is where the false twins, false love related experiences and false light of love related experiences, twin flames have to experience to understand the deeper levels of love in the future, or for their future, or as a part of their twin flame journey, as a part of a ascension journey. Every human being has to understand what true love actually means. And false twins' job in your life is, their soul contract with you is to give you this heartbreaking experiences to make you realize what is the opposite of love related experience. So most of the false twins will either play you. For me, I got played with the first guy. For Catherine, in Wuthering Heights story, she is the one who doesn't exactly play Heathcliff, but she is slightly trying to play Heathcliff there. And meaning she should have, at least first time she didn't say no to him, you can understand she was a teen. But after being married for a while, when she was also giving birth to a child, at that time she had to be the stronger woman to say no to him, which she couldn't do it. And that's why only Heathcliff kept living in the illusion that she loves him as deeply as he loves her, whereas it was an illusion. Because if she had indeed loved him deeply, because understand, like, if you have a choice in a relationship, even if you're married to someone, in Radha Krishna's case or in Mira's case, when Mira is in love with God, she is so devoted to God that she doesn't have sexual relationships or marital relationship with her spouse. Same way with Radha also. Radha also doesn't, most probably, as far as I can perceive from Radha's story, she was completely celibate all her life. So while Radha was celibate, Meera was celibate, because they were completely devoted to the love they felt for God or love they felt for Krishna. So at those point of time when you're being celibate, that is the option you have in a, even if you are someone's false twin, and they were both false twins possibly of the men they have married, and their experience was meant to design to teach their men that just because you've loved someone or married someone doesn't mean that you have a right to them bodily or soulfully or at a heart based level. They were just there because you had a desire for them. There was an egoic need for you to marry them. That's why you married them, without seeing where their heart was leading them, whether their heart was leading them towards you. Because that is what false twin does. They will test you and give you the life lesson about whether someone's heart is leading you towards them and you are getting led towards them. Meaning, while my heart was leading me to fall for my false twin, his heart was never leading him to fall for me. He always prioritized other women. He always was flirting with other women as well, or threatening me that he will flirt with other women, or manipulating me into being in love with him. All sorts of very, very dark experiences happened in my first false twin experience, and they were not the extremely darkest of experiences like how Heathcliff was going through with Catherine, but they were similar level darkness filled. And similarly with Heathcliff, where Catherine was doing that to him, she may not have been consciously doing it to him, but subconsciously, like my guy was deliberately manipulating me. But here Catherine was not deliberately manipulating Heathcliff, but Heathcliff only kept coming back again and again to Catherine. And this also can happen. Why? Because let's say I have that guy who was my false twin. Let's say he was a Heathcliff like guy to me in my past life, and in that past life I was possibly like Catherine, where every time I tried to say no to Heathcliff, he still didn't understand why I am saying no. And this is a perception that men have, or many men have these false perception about love also, that if a woman says no to them, they are just being coy and shy, and that no is a fuel to the fire of some men. They need that no as a fuel to keep being attracted to some women. Why? Because at that time, if you have led an abuse-filled life, if you have had past life experiences of abuse, if you are not completely, at a conscious level of existence and are very unconscious, you will think that all these misperceptions and mistaken beliefs about love that has been going around in the world, that mistaken beliefs will continue. Because it's possible that someone who deeply loves you might be shy enough to express their love to you, or might take some time to express their love to you, or might need some time to say yes to you. All of these are possible, and at those turning points, if someone says no to you, that is a valid no response, because temporarily at that point of time in their life, they need to do some reflections, they need to do some thinking. For whom? The kind of personality who is the gentle, slow thinker, meaning they need some time to think. Like if I propose to you, I need some time to think. Let me look at the pros and cons. They're like very logically oriented. That person might need some time. Those who have already been betrayed by a couple of people, they might also need some time because of having been betrayed, they are not healed enough. So in all those scenarios, when I am leaning towards someone and that other person is not yet sure whether they should lean towards me or not, or there is some healing that has to happen in the relationship, which can happen in a soulmate relationship or higher level divine counterpart relationship, or even in a twin flame relationship as well. All these pauses and time to reflect and patience to reflect, patience to understand each other, or patience to heal from past wounds, all of these will happen in these higher level good kind of relationships. Whereas in a false twin relationship or a karmic relationship, there's always a hurry to get that going. So if I say, if I propose to you, you have to say yes to me. You don't get the time to say no to me. Or I will continue love bombing you. I'll continue, magnetizing you towards me, attracting you towards me, pulling you towards me. So that guy was doing that. He was actually sexually pulling me towards him, sexually and energetically pulling me towards him, emotionally also pulling me towards him. Whereas verbally, I was the one doing the pulling. Like verbally, I was saying like I love you, this and that. So both ways I was getting actually messed up. Like I don't have any. He was like, if you have read Somerset Maugham's book The Magician, in The Magician there's this description of a guy who's the magician, who kind of like, there's a description there in Maugham's book that kind of resonated with my false twin experiences and experiences with some very dark catalysts. So these catalyst kinds are also like that. They will magnetize you to them, but they have no higher purpose. They don't really care for you. They don't really actually love you. And this magnetism Heathcliff also had. Heathcliff did that to Catherine also, and Catherine was the object of his desire. But you see, the moment Catherine has said no to him a few times and he wants revenge now, or after that's why he wants to continue being in her life because he can't take the no of rejection from her. What does he do? He uses that same magnetic energy that he has used with Catherine. He was using some magnetic energy on Catherine, and you don't realize that when you're naive, young and unconscious about love. At the time, these kind of magnetism related energy manipulation related thing that a false twin or a catalyst can do, or a very dark person can do for you, you don't realize it. So that's why, I'm not 100% sure whether Catherine was manipulating him or not. Or if she was, it was like, let's say if Catherine was manipulating him 20%, he was manipulating her 80%. Because you see, the entire book is about Heathcliff manipulating multiple people. So you can't like say that Heathcliff never manipulated people, right? Or that we are judging Heathcliff for manipulating Cathy, when it would be a judgment or a false judgment about Heathcliff's character if he had not manipulated other people. But he consistently kept manipulating everyone in the book. So because manipulating them towards their ruin, magnetizing them towards going into a path that will lead them to their destruction, he kept doing that. So he was playing like the devil's role in all these people's lives. He could have played a normal role, or he could have played a higher level person's role, or ascended from his devil-like ways. When he wouldn't have manipulated them, when he wouldn't have abused them, he was directly and indirectly abusing many of them. The only one whose direct abuse was evident in the story was Isabella. Partial abuse was evident with Catherine, but that abuse element also in Wuthering Heights, many people don't realize until you are that woman who has been abused in a this was a manipulated abuse, or related to manipulation was happening to Catherine, I feel. And then further just direct abuse and direct destruction of lives happened to Cathy and Hareton, where very evident destruction of their lives were present in their storyline, right? And the subtle and long-term destruction that he did was the subtle friendship he built with Edgar and Hindley, and continued to pretend to be their well-wisher and friend, when all his motivations related to being their friend was to take them towards their ruin, lead them away from lighter experiences of life, better and softer experiences of life. So this is why he was a very dark twin flame, dark and false twin flame, and he was, if not a false twin flame, he was also a catalyst kind of a karmic relationship for many of these people. Like he was catalyzing people towards the darkness, that if the people rejected it, they were able to ascend now, and which is what happened to Kathy and Hareton. Whereas the others who couldn't reject it, or they rejected it very partially, some of them were able to ascend slightly, whereas the other characters were not completely able to ascend then. And that is why only, and let's say in my previous video which I got cut off in that middle of it, so in the second part 2 video where I was discussing about Heathcliff seeing Kathy's eyes, or Kathy's soul was seen many a times with Heathcliff in the neighborhood. Why was that happening? If he has done some dark magic now with her, that would also soul tie her to him. That could have happened. Or because she was like in love with him, she also had a contract in the spirit form to wake him up from this dark path of destruction that he's doing. Like she was possibly his high level soulmate who had come to his life to awaken him up, that don't go down this darker pathway of leading life, or wake him up to the fact he kept seeing her eyes, because the same eyes that Catherine Earnshaw had was the same eyes that Kathy Linton had, was the same eyes that Hareton Earnshaw had, because they were all biologically connected to each other, and they were all having that same eyes because those eyes were staring at him before he died, or he couldn't sleep many days and years before he died. And at that time those eyes were accusatorily actually staring him and asking him, do some soul level self-reflection before you die, do some justice about the manipulation you have done in this life. That was the reason why he kept seeing those eyes. That was the reason why in the end you will see he does very mildly soften towards them, but very mildly. Whereas if he had that exact thing that happened to him before he died, he just in the end couldn't even bear to look into both of their eyes, Kathy and Hareton. And if he had still continued with the real hatred, and he had never stopped, Catherine's eyes had never come and haunted him so much, he would likely have not allowed only Kathy and Hareton to marry while he was still alive. But in the end, he did allow them to get married. In the end, he did at least soften somewhat to some minor degree. But again, his life, this painful story of Wuthering Heights that unfolded for Heathcliff, wouldn't have unfolded that way for him if at different time points of his life where he made all the manipulative choices to ruin someone, instead of making those choices, he had slightly, even if you had marginally shifted his choices related to their ruin, his soul karma and karmic contracts and future life's karmic load related to these people, his burden of karma with them would have been lesser, reduced, or ended only like how it ended possibly with Kathy and Hareton's related karmic healing that they had to do. I hope this makes sense. And similarly with my false twin experience, what happened now was, while I was in love with them and they manipulated me deeply, at the time what was happening while they were, and I said that it is possible that in a past life I might have been their spouse where we were married, and our marriage was not really that great. So at a soul level, both our soul knows that this is not a good equation, like our frequencies don't match. In twin flame experiences, you will also understand twin flames are the same frequency soul, so you vibrate at the same frequency. If you have ever done frequency healing related music videos, if you have watched, different videos have different frequencies, right? So some video will be 435 megahertz, megahertz only, I think it is, whatever it is, they have different frequencies. So one is 435, one is 600, one is 900, whatever different numbers are there, and these different numbers mean they're vibrating at a certain frequency. So like that, twin flame souls also vibrate at a certain frequency. So, and the false twin soul doesn't vibrate with you at the same frequency. And because of that reason only, when the false twin flame soul doesn't vibrate at the same frequency as you, what happens is there is a distortion in the energy balance between you. Always a persistent distorted energy balance will remain, because I also saw with my false twin flame, like for many years I did healing to forgive him. For many years I did letting go rituals to end the karmic contracts I had with him, or to end the soul tie that I had. Like, I was very deeply in love with him, and that deep love I knew was toxic for me, harmful for me, imbalanced, because I 100% realized after few months of dating with him, the way he would let go of me. And the 2 videos I have made with the pouring of the cup image there, those 2 videos of pouring of the cup image has some elements of all the relationship imbalances that can happen to us when we are in a imbalanced and false twin relationship. They will continuously keep showing you why they don't love you at the same way you deserve to be loved. And when someone says they deserve to be loved in a particular way, it is the energy and frequency they are being born with. Their frequency is a particular frequency that only if you are a twin flame, for you that frequency will match only with your twin flame. And that's why with that high level frequency match with your twin flame, you ascend. That's why, because both of you, when vibrating at the same frequency and balancing each other at the same frequency, then slowly are able to ascend. That is the purpose of a twin flame. Because with a false twin flame, there will be so much mismatch that you can't vibrate together, and that's why you can't ascend together. You are always at up down seesaw like thing, or you are always at a very toxic push pull dynamics, where you are like, if you lean too much. And this happened with my false twin also. Like, the moment I would let go of him, there were like, first he broke up with me, then for a few months we didn't date each other, then again we started dating each other for a few months, again it happened that something happened and we would break up. Whatever was going on initially, the first 2-3 times the breakup always happened from him. Why? Because I was pouring more into the relationship, I was more emotionally invested in the relationship. But after like a year or two of this push-pull dynamics going on, between a year and a half of this dynamics going on, I slowly started waking up that he doesn't care about me. If I live in a different town, like a little longer distance away, he doesn't care about driving to see me. He doesn't miss me. He doesn't even have to drive to see me. He could have made a phone call at least to speak with me, but he didn't have the need to speak with me. He didn't feel the need to meet me. He didn't feel the need to be in the have a same future life path together with me. We never had discussions only about those life path journey or anything at all that would show to me or reveal to me that, oh, we are on the same page, we're vibrating on the same frequency, we're thinking. And see, at that time I was not mature enough to think about the frequency level stuff I'm talking about right now. This is a hindsight related experience that is manifesting about what happened in my past. So as you reflect more deeply into your false twin flame or other experiences, this is also part of the inner work twin flames have to do. You have to reflect deeply about the purpose of the experience you had with someone else. So from the purpose of the dark experience I had with him, I started realizing that he doesn't respect me. I have to respect myself. So when he's not respecting me, let's start building self-respect. And this is all also a part of the reason why false twin flame comes to your life. They will show you a mirror to all the things that you could potentially improve in your life or change in your life. But you have to change not for them. You have to change it for you if you feel the benefit of it. Like if my false twin flame made comments about me being fat, I can change my fatness, or I should change my fatness, not because a boy said you are fat, or if you lose 10 pounds you will look hotter. That's not the reason why I should lose fat. Why should I lose fat? If I feel like it, if it makes me feel healthy, if it really makes me feel beautiful, if it is something that is necessary for me to do. Because many men, even if they have the supermodel like girlfriend also, they can tell that girlfriend also that lose a few pounds. Many men, even if they don't have a supermodel like girlfriend, but a really still top 20 percentile level of a girlfriend, they are still aspiring for a hotter and hotter thing, because it can become a very egoic thing. Again, that is also related to ego. You shouldn't be pleasing someone else out of ego for pleasing someone else, or you shouldn't be doing things to yourself or your body or any kind of self improvement in your life just to please someone, or think that if I do this, this person will love me, because that is the false experience and illusory experience of love. If you do xyz, another person will love you, is a false perception about love, because the reality is, with those people who love you, you don't have to do anything for them to love you. It just naturally automatically happens, and love becomes a very unconditional experience. What does happen in a conditionality of love based experience is that you need to have a natural compatibility with each other to functionally be able to, at a earthly existence level, functionally manage and merge your lives and balance your lives and align your lives and harmonize your lives with each other. But that harmonizing, balancing, merging becomes easier when you are with the right frequency match person, right person who balances you, is ready to balance you, and you are ready to balance them. If I continue wanting to balance a relationship but the other person is not wanting to balance the relationship, again it will not work. In my second one's experience, he was my soulmate like experience. So how much ever I try to balance it, but if he's not trying and he's thinking he's also balancing it, but I'm not balancing it. So for us, what happened was, both of us were feeling we are trying to balance it, but it was still not balancing. Why? Because we were soulmates of the kind who were meant to be most probably we should have just remained friends. And there also I did a stupid thing where I had only tried to convince, despite being friends, despite having lesser chemistry with him, despite having some other challenges also in the relationship with him, I still thought because we are together and hanging out so much together, and it is for some reason I thought I should ask him to date. And then he had said no, but slowly, because now I was the magnetizer in that relationship, he got magnetized into thinking, okay, let's try it out. So we tried it out and it didn't work, and obviously his instinct, and I realized both these guys' instincts were better than mine in understanding what is possibly a bad experience for us. And it is very highly likely possible that their soul energy still had memory of maybe a past life where we were not good to each other, or we were with each other, but even though we were with each other, we realized that in that life journey that we shouldn't have been partners. Like, one person could have realized that I shouldn't have married her, I had better matches with other women. The other person could have realized that I shouldn't have married her, I should have just been her friend in this life, and in the next life also my soul contract should be just to be friends with her. So, which is what I eventually realized. And when did I eventually realize it? Not at the moment I was facing heartbreak after relationship trauma, or heartbreak after whatever betrayal and other things happened in the relationship, whatever lessons I had to learn in those relationships. At that point of time, I didn't realize all these things. But after I started on the healing journey, I had to forgive them. I had to forgive myself for the experience I had with them. I had to do some inner work related to those experiences, and then self-reflection on where they were doing something unfair in the relationship, where I was doing something unfair in the relationship, where both of us were involved in imbalancing a relationship, and those self-awareness development is necessary, self-reflection is necessary, inner work is necessary for you to become aware that what is the place where you can indeed, there is a room for improvement, and what are the places you just can't improve yourself, because that is your core soul nature. So how much ever you can't deny your core soul nature about certain things. Like this guy, one of the guys I was dating, he loved hanging around a lot with friends all the time and socializing with his friends all the time. And that was a major red flag for me, because if I am a twin flame, and I didn't know at the time I was a twin flame. But the thing is, God knows I am a twin flame. My higher soul knows I am a twin flame. And my God and higher soul also knows I have a higher soul purpose related to a life experience I have to engage in with my twin flame. That higher soul purpose with a twin flame that can't be brought into my life until I realize what kind of higher soul purpose I will have with them. But in order to build myself to go there, that is an experience that I will have maybe after 10 years of realizing I There are certain things that need to be there as a building block stage of my life, and that building block stage of my life can't be built if I am building it with people who are not on the same page as me. Like if I have to go to 12th grade, my motivation is that for I'll study for 12 years and then I will go to 12th grade and graduate high school. That is my motivation. But my twin flames motivation is they will only study till 10th and they will graduate after 10th and not study at all. Another person's motivation is I will go till 12th but I have no interest in graduating, or even if I graduate or doesn't graduate doesn't matter. I have a completely different life plan after 12th. So in all of these cases, one who has who wants to graduate after 12th grade and has a life plan after that, another who doesn't have any life plan after that, similar life plan as you, another who doesn't even want to reach till 12th grade, can you take them with you or be their life partner if you have a bigger life plan and after 12th grade, and you at that time know only up till 12th grade because you are in 8th grade and now you are only looking at the next 5 years of your life. In the next 5 years of their life, one person doesn't even want to have the same journey as you. For only 2 years they'll be on the same journey as you. So obviously your relationship has to break apart then, right? So you have to stay friends only most probably with those people. They can't be your long-term life partner because already after 2 years only your life path is diverging. Another person, after 4 years your life path is diverging. And all these, even if I can't see it, I don't know about it, even if we didn't discuss it in the relationship, that's why it's necessary sometimes to discuss these things with your partner or anyone you are dating. But let's say you didn't discuss it, and which is what happened to Heathcliff. Kathy never discussed to Heathcliff what her like while they were in love with each other, there was no discussion about their future or what their future could potentially look like. Could Catherine wait for him to get some money and whatever she needed as a comfort thing? All of these he never asked her. All of this she never explored with him. And that's why only it became a false twin flame experience. Because in a real twin flame experience, you have to have these hard conversations with each other. In a higher soulmate experience also, you have to have the difficult conversations about all the things that could be barriers to your life together, all the things that could be diverting your paths, and whether that diverting of the path will be a temporary diversion or a long-term diversion, you need to understand about it with each other. So and you have the false twin experience. That's why because with the false twin you will do everything wrong, many things wrong. You will continuously be doing many things wrong with the false twin flame, many things wrong with the karmic. You will also be doing many things wrong. They will also be doing many things wrong. The places where they are hurting you are the places you will need to heal. The places you have hurt them, they also have to heal at those places. The places where in the past life some hurt was there, that hurt also might need to be cleared in this life. These are the reasons why you go through karmic challenges and false twin flame experiences or even catalyst experiences. And some of these experiences you have to work through it, and some of them you have to let go because maybe the divine timing for working through those experiences hasn't arrived yet, and you have to wait for the divine timing of the clearing of those karmic experiences as well. So these are all the places you do the inner work. That's why, and each twin flame has to do it on their own. And when you do it, then only your pathway and doorway to twin flame related journeys, more knowledge and next step of the twin flame journey, next step of the ascension journey will open. But with Heathcliff, what happened? While Kathy decided, okay, I will be loyal to my husband, in that way she decided in this lifetime I want to learn the skill of loyalty to a husband. But she couldn't do the loyalty to a friend thing with Heathcliff, where and maybe her life lesson was to learn about loyalty. Whether she will learn it with a husband or whether she'll learn it with a friend was the choice she had, and she made one of the choices. And but because she was still loyal to her friend and she wanted her friend to also do some ascending related work, that's why she possibly haunted him to awaken him, like, you know, you did this wrong to me, you are harming my family, so can you please stop harming my family? And that's why she was haunting him, possibly not because she was his high level soulmate, but she was his or because she was possibly his high level soulmate. But in the life they had as Catherine and Heathcliff, they were actually each other's false twin flame experience, or rather Kathy was Heathcliff's false twin flame, whereas Heathcliff was for Kathy just a soulmate experience or as well. So she had two soulmates to choose from, and she chose the soulmate whichever gave her more comfort or security in that life. But she didn't let go of her friendship to the other soulmate. So at the soul level, she helped him. So Heathcliff feeling love for Kathy was not like a love that went to waste, but it's just the love that was not the right love for him. That's why Kathy was his false twin flame experience. And the eyes kept, and these eyes are the windows to the soul experience, which in the part 2 I said that in Indian movies I've seen some actors, but even in American movies I've seen this with actors, that there are some actors who recognize another soul who is maybe like their, who was a co-star in a movie, or they've been hanging around as a group of friends. So at those time points, there are some actors and actresses who have had these experiences where they feel this deep, intense connection to another person who's their co-star, who is not their spouse, who is not their wife, who is not their girlfriend, nothing. They're not dating that person, they're already possibly dating someone else, but yet they feel this intense pull towards someone else. And this intense pull, now you have to realize, in the modern world, is the thing that leads to relationship grief. If you do not understand that pull in the right way, do not manage that pull in the right way, do not understand the higher purpose of that pull. And that is why I'm making these videos about false twin flame experiences and karmics and catalysts, because I actually found the eyes of my false twin flame and catalyst and soulmate and real twin flame. All 4 of their eyes were very magnetic to me, but they were all magnetic in 4 different ways. The person who was the false twin flame was magnetically using my illusion of like there was some past life karma. That's why I found them magnetic. Because of that past life karma, while I found them to be magnetic, and they knew they were spiritually, I feel, a little bit higher in spiritual awareness than me, so they might have known about that past experience also that I didn't have recognition of. And they never discussed it with me, because our level of life journey only was such a level there that he never considered me to be spiritually his equal or something. So whatever was going on, he had some extra information about that relationship trajectory we are going through, but he didn't share that information. And false twins and karmics will do that to you. They'll not share the information they have about you, or share it in a meaningful way where you can mutually then decide what to do with this relationship. Because if you do that, then what happens is, even with a false twin flame, you will not have a very toxic relationship. With a false twin flame, it would have just been a conflict filled relationship or a challenging relationship that forces you to leave them. That is what a false twin flame of the highest potential can be. A false twin flame with a moderate potential will be a one where you will again feel magnetized. You might feel like working with each other, you might feel like doing things together with each other, but again there will be a lot of difference of opinion, a lot of pulling apart of the relationship, and a lot of conflict. And with the worst false twin kind of experiences, you will have a lot of abuse also going on in the relationship. And ours was kind of in the middle. It was sometimes abusive, sometimes conflict filled, and definitely never our paths were merging only with each other, even with the minimal, and conversation was completely like very negligible and non-existent. So which is also a problem with false twin flame or catalyst or karmic relationships. That is what they will pull you towards. With the soulmate, I found his eyes very cute. Okay, but even though I found his eyes very cute, it was a cuteness of, again, like in Radha Krishna's, not Radha Krishna, who do I equate this with? Let's say Radha Krishna, like Radha Krishna is Vishnu and Lakshmi's earthly form, right? So with Vishnu and Lakshmi, they are also gods, and Shiv Shakti are also gods. They are now friends with each other, right? So it will be like the kind of recognition you will have possibly with that high level soulmate, the recognition that Lakshmi will have with Shiva. Like she will know, hi Shiva, you are my husband's friend, so I like you as my husband's friend. Or we have to do some joint work together at higher realms or in certain places of life. We will have to do higher level soul work together. So you are higher level soulmate. That's why you will recognize each other as friends, recognize each other as compatriots doing work together. And that's why only with my second boyfriend experience, I just couldn't be sexual with that person. We tried to be sexual, but it just didn't work out, because there was, I think, automatically an energetic block placed by the universe in the relationship, where they didn't want to ruin the sacredness of just a friendship that should exist between us, and it shouldn't transcend into a sexual relationship or that kind of a marriage partnership type relationship. That's why only a lot of blockages came in our path and challenges came that we couldn't transcend, and we were not meant to transcend, because we were meant to just simply be friends of each other. That is what I have concluded. I don't know whether he concluded that way as well. That was again, the how you will feel towards, while the eyes will attract you, what you feel towards those eyes will be very different for false twin, soulmate, karmic, and your twin flame as well. It will be very, very different how you feel about those eyes, or how you get magnetized by those eyes, or eventually sometimes how you will get scared also about the eyes of someone who is not meant to be your right life partner. Because if someone starts hating you now, because in karmic relationships or catalyst relationships, what happens is they were just meant to be a catalytic reaction was supposed to be generated with them, meaning as soon as you meet, you're supposed to know this is the wrong relationship for me. You're not supposed to drag on and on in any relationship with them if you can help it, because if you get trapped in a catalyst relationship or a high level toxic karmic relationship, there while you were magnetized about something, it was a false magnetism, or it was a manipulative one, or it was one where all that relationship would lead to is your ruin. And which is what kind of happened with Heathcliff. It just, the whole thing that Heathcliff went through in Wuthering Heights led to his ruin, because he couldn't discern these differences between, the density of his experience was so high, he couldn't discern the differences between what was the value of good friendship, what was the value of someone raising you like a father, what was the value of someone being like a sister and a lover to you in a way, what is the value of when they are not a sister and a lover, now they are married to someone else, what should you do? All these things he couldn't understand how to navigate. He didn't know how to navigate. He didn't also have, unfortunately, people to help him navigate it in the right way, and as a result he was so lost. And that's why also he kept getting more chances. Also, you will see the number of chances he gets to redeem himself via different people is higher for Heathcliff, because he had the most difficult life experiences. So a lot more chances will be given to someone who has already taken the burden of going through a difficult life, being an orphan, being someone who is going to be less loved, being someone who has less social advantages. All of these things were playing around. But because he couldn't learn the lesson, finally a person like Hareton had to come in his life to show him that, see, this boy also didn't have many of the advantages that you didn't have, but see how different he is to you. Can you now? And why did he meet Hareton towards the second half of his life's experience? Because first half of his life experience, or the first 40 years of his life experiences, were meant to teach him how to understand this from the people he already loved, or people who already loved him, people who were already connected to him emotionally, because they were friends with him, because they loved him, because they could care to him. Yes, some of them didn't love him as deeply as he wanted to be loved, but they still cared for him. And actually speaking, if you look at all three men, Edgar, Heathcliff, Hindley, all three were pining for the women they loved. All three women they loved died. All three were in the same boat. Now they all three could have gathered and formed a group of friendship also, and a friendship group which could have been each other's true support system than a false support system. So there also those three could have learned from each other and been a real support system to each other than going down their own path of ruin or own path of isolation that led to. And Edgar did the right thing, because if Edgar hadn't done it, he couldn't have taught Kathy certain things that Kathy needed to learn. So Edgar's choice wasn't that bad, but Hindley's choice was the most ruining for him, right? Because Hindley's choice was self-harming, whereas Heathcliff's choice was everyone else's harm, which leads to his self-harm, because many people don't realize when you harm others, eventually that harm comes back to you. So which is what was eventually the end experience of Wuthering Heights. And same way, what is written in Wuthering Heights, though it is a very fictional book, the reason why it's a classic book is because it has real elements related to what real people go through in their life when they are navigating a journey of love, wanting to understand a journey of broken hearts and love and imbalanced love, or a love that wasn't meant to last for a long time. Heathcliff's journey with Catherine was meant to be a shorter journey, or a journey of friendship level possibly, which he turned into a relationship level, because that's the only female love he knew initially, and that is the only one he wanted to stick to. But and which is what many of us stubborn people do, that like when we are in our, like I couldn't, when I was in my 20s and in love with my first boyfriend, I couldn't imagine a life without that first boyfriend, or think that I would have a different life without him. For 2-3 years I couldn't imagine a life without him. That's why I kept going back to him again and again. But it was only a 2-3 years worth of life, because let's say in the past life I was married to that person for 20-30 years, and in that 20-30 years what I had learnt in my past life, in this life I repeated that experience, but at a shorter span, because I had a previous life experience of 20-30 years, where in 20-30 years I was possibly had the similar kind of torture experience, similar kind of emotional trauma, similar kind of cheating related things, similar kind of all the experiences which showed already to him that in this life we will not date. That's only he rejected initially when I not rejected, he did he, even though maybe our soul contract said that we shouldn't date each other, or we shouldn't say yes to each other for marriage, even though that soul contract was written by us before we landed on earth. But despite that, because that magnetism from the past life was there, the familiarity from the past life was there, and some higher purpose related to present life's experiences were needed for us to awaken something in us, we had to go through these 2-3 years of push-pull dynamics and on and off dating life and things like that. Like for the span of dating was longer than 3 years, but it was like few months dating, then not seeing each other, then again few months dating and not seeing each other for a year, and things like that shaped up in our life, where eventually, while initially he was I was pulled towards him, what happened was in the second half of that relationship I started pulling away, and he started at that time becoming more and more interested, which is where again the false twin related experience shows up, where this shouldn't be happening. Like when you are pulling away and the other person is pulling into you, and then when I was leaning in, he was pulling out of the relationship. So what kept happening was I'm going towards, if these are two of us, this is me and this is him. If initially I was like magnetized, and he's like running, and now after a few years of breakups and being mistreated, I decided I will not, I'll stay away from him. I want a platonic relationship. I just want a friendship or nothing else, either a friendship or no relationship at all. I was okay with either of them. So while I'm pulling away, that's when he's now pulling, coming and leaning on me. And then also after a few years, again, then what happened after breakup and everything, the third phase was where both of us were wanting to be with each other, but how much ever we tried, our past life experiences and the past experiences of this life, or whatever was our future related karma that was meant to emerge for us, what happened was, even though intentionally in our thought level and emotionally at the emotional level we had by then, after a few years, wanted to be with each other, there was so much karmic baggage and there was so much trauma stored in my body about him that I just couldn't say yes to him at all. How much ever I tried, like I could see that he wanted to really try it out or something, but even if he wanted to try it out, I just couldn't try it out at all. It just, the switch just went off for me after a few years. I don't know how, or I know how, like it took a 5 years journey of healing to get out of being completely so immersed in love with him. But it just happened that one day something happened, like it was like the straw that breaks the camel's back. It was like that kind of a experience, that there was one final straw that broke me in such a way that I realized how much ever harder I try in this relationship, how much ever he wants to try this relationship, I could finally see after 5 years what he couldn't see. Like 5 years back, what I couldn't see, I could now see, and what he couldn't see 5 years back, he could see. Meaning, 5 years back, if I was deeply in love with him and he wasn't in love with me, and I could see the potential of the love we could have with each other, now 5 years down the line, I couldn't see the potential, and at that time he was rejecting it because he couldn't see the potential of love between us, or he was rejecting it in a very indirect way, still playing me about sexual things and other things, but indirectly in a relationship aspect way he was rejecting me. So and verbally also, he would never say he loves me, he would only say I like you, or he would rarely say he likes me. All of these things, like these are all important things. If someone doesn't say, doesn't show, doesn't be there for you in love, you will naturally know that this person doesn't love you at that level in which anyone can love another human being. So the potential of love is there, but it is not manifesting at that level with them. So 5 years later, obviously, that's why I was like, he's never, or hardly ever really shown that he really cares at a deeper level for me, wants to care at a deeper level, is serious about caring at a deeper level. And in order to have a future life also with someone, you have to discuss also your future life plans, your future life goals, your dreams and visions, and what you want to manifest in your life. You have to see the practicality also of it. Everything in life doesn't run about just with emotions, right? So emotions can make you run for 5 years after someone, or 2-3 years after someone, but emotions are not enough for the long run. Emotions plus balanced emotions, healed emotions, healing potential related emotions, trust, loyalty, prioritization. There are many other aspects which, while the unconditionality, I still can say that I am unconditionally, I like that guy or love that guy, or I can think about his benefit even if he's an ex. But at another level, I know that the conditionality of us being together in this life as life partners were not met in that experience, because the conditionality or the higher purpose level love requires us to be in balance. Because if you have a purpose, like you can continue living in a relationship with a guy like that, where push pull is happening, or back and forth is happening, or imbalances are happening, and you can continue that kind of a life when you don't have a higher purpose, when you don't have some purpose of some work you have to do, where balanced alignment is necessary with a partner. At those time points, if you continue in a relationship with these kind of dynamics, it might work out for you for a few years. But if you do have a higher purpose, like I couldn't give my energy anymore to the relationship, because I realized that in the time I'm giving to all this relationship, I could do self-improvement. And I did. Anytime I broke off, the good thing about a false twin flame experience is it always helps you in elevating in life about certain things. Because especially if the false twin was highly unfavorably toxic to you, or unfavorably abusive to you, God will help you elevate, because that person is not seeing your worth and value at that time, and that's why they are manipulating you. Like, not all false twin flame does that, but for my false twin flame karmic type relationship, this was happening, that they were unusually or really at high level disrespecting me. So to help me with my self-respect, God helped me elevate in certain ways, which wouldn't have happened if they had respected me. I would have stayed an ordinary girl. But I would have been a much different girl than I would have if their disrespect added a fuel to the fire of me learning about respect, learning about self-respect, learning about self-care, all the things that I couldn't learn as a child because of other things related to my childhood. And this is the journey some twin flames have come to experience, that you will have certain experiences and challenges like Heathcliff had, Kathy Linton, and Hareton had. So these three were actually, that's why only in the end they ended up together with each other, because these three had broken traumatic childhood. All three had it. All three didn't have parents in their life. All three, that was the similarity of their experience. Kathy grew up with a father who loved her deeply, but her mother had passed away. Hareton grew up with a father who was drunk most of the time, and then he passed away. So Hareton grew up with no one actually loving him, even though there were three male figures around him when he was growing up for a while. Heathcliff, God knows what he grew up with in the streets. He could have grown up with a lot less love or lot more harmful experiences, but he could have very well had a mother also who raised him, possibly, or he didn't understand the mother's love. Many things could have, we don't know Heathcliff's past, whether it was similar to Kathy, similar to Hareton, similar to it was possibly even complementary, that he had maybe just female experiences in his life, and then he was taken away from his mother, and that's why he was this very different, because he couldn't bear the shock of being taken away from his mother. And maybe that is the reason why he also resented the Earnshaws, that while the woman he fell in love with after being taken away from his mother was Catherine, he was everyone else, the men in his life, were not aligning with him. And because it was not aligning with him, he kept always seeking revenge against the men, or bringing ruin to their lives. So something was going on in Heathcliff's past also, we don't know. Heathcliff's karma related things was also going on, which made him the way he was, which is also something, if someone wants to write an alternative story about Wuthering Heights, they can think about exploring. But this is how life unfolds for us. We don't know what things about our past influence us our present, but if we do want to know deeply, that's when you have to do the inner work. If we do want to ascend into a better version of ourselves, or into a better version of leading life, a balanced life with a partner, we have to understand what about our past influences our present, what in our past still needs healing, what about our past couldn't have been any different than what it could have been, that added also some meaning to our present. Like Heathcliff's purpose could have been to have been a rich man, which he would never have thought of doing if Catherine hadn't rejected him. Same way I couldn't have become many things I became as a result of the rejections the guys who rejected me gave me. Because they rejected me, I had the time to then sit and study while they were busy dating someone else, or doing something else, or marrying someone else. I was still healing from the shock of being in love with them, but while I was healing from the emotional shock of being in love with him, I was also simultaneously studying and doing other professional stuff instead. So I was doing two things simultaneously, which I wouldn't have been able to do if they were deeply in love with me. I would have focused entire life like all women do. Many women pour their love and life and everything into the man they love. And while they give everything to the man, if the man is not equally in love with her, you can spend years and decades loving someone who will never respect you, who will not value you, you will not give you what you need emotionally, physically, financially, security wise, nothing that will actually make life meaningful for you, and which none of these men gave to me. I was giving to myself. So if they were not giving me love, I gave myself self-love. If they were not respectful about me, I cultivated things in me that would make me feel good about me and respect myself. For me, respecting myself meant that I'm not going to sleep with you how much ever deeply I love you if you're not going to marry me. For me, respect meant I'm not going to allow you to touch me in ways which I find uncomfortable. So I spoke about those things. So whichever things brings respect to me, makes me feel that this is the respect boundary I need to have in a relationship, I try to keep that which can be kept. And obviously there are things, it's not that I have been very high, whatever it is, I have made mistakes also in my life. So while you're doing self-reflection, you have to also learn where did you make mistakes in your relationship, where can there be a room for improvement, where can be a room for evolution and change of perception and belief systems. And one change of perception and belief system was, just because you get magnetized to someone's eyes doesn't mean that they are the right person for you, because you can get magnetized to many people, but and their eyes will draw you into them, or their energy will draw you in towards them. But understand that they were possibly either a high level karmic of yours, or high level some kind of a dark, some people are very have dark powers and energy. So some people will use dark power and energy to magnetize you to them, like the book Magician describes. So if you read that book, or the book of Human Bondage describes, both of them describe very dark energy related relationships. So that will magnetize. Or Wuthering Heights describes. These are all people with very dark energies who will just pull you only towards darkness. And the only way to resist them is to come back to God, make the better aligned choices, make the choices, kind of choices that Kathy and Hareton made, despite having a lot of things going wrong in their life. So if you make those kind of choices, you will slowly be taken away from the grasp of that darkness. And in that choices, when it is a very difficult choice to make, that's when you gravitate towards God, lean towards God, ask help from God. Because when you are awakening spiritually or ascending spiritually, you have to connect with the higher power of the universe, the higher power which guides us into a higher way of being. You can't go into a higher way of being by having the same thoughts about love as other people who are not at a higher way of being. So if I got stuck in the fact that there is a mistaken belief system that if it is your first love, or if you have dated someone for many years, that is the love you must stick with, or if you have been married to someone for many years, marriage level, I'll talk about marriage in possibly in different video. But if you've dated someone for many years, or you've been in love with them for many years, and you assume that just because I have been on a long-term relationship with them, it means that I am having a healthy relationship, that is also a false belief system many people have. Because it becomes a false belief system when, if you were together with each other and were jointly evolving with each other, growing with each other, supporting each other in your growth, and having some similar life goals that will take you towards the same elevated route or same frequency of love related conditions in your life to manifest in both of your lives, then you know how long you know each other matters. But if you're not doing that, if the length of the number of years you stayed, in fact, becomes more and more actually harming towards your growth and evolution as a human being, when you are actually not aligning with each other, merging lives with each other, or harmonizing with each other, or when you are instead, then at that time point you are possibly just not elevating but living a very stagnant life. And then there are those who will not only not be elevating, who will not only remain stagnant, but they're deteriorating in life if they stay with those people who are always constantly abusing them, disrespecting them, ignoring their wishes, ignoring that there is a need for balance that is needed in a relationship, or they're doing the bare minimum to keep a relationship going. Then understanding that for a deep level relationship, you have to have deep level commitment, deep level mutual work has to be done in relationships. And when that doesn't exist, you will have like a very toxic life experience with people. And it is your choice. We all have free will to decide whether you want the toxic experience, the stagnating experience, or a elevating experience. And these are just the top 3 kinds of experiences I'm talking about. You can have some other kinds of experiences also, but if in these 3 kinds of experiences you get stuck in the stagnation phase or the toxic phase, then you just keep doing more and more harm to your soul and harm to another soul, like how Heathcliff was doing in the Wuthering Heights story. So that's why you have a free will choice. Then what do you do after that harm, or how do you heal from that harm? How do you focus away and shift your focus away from harm? You will see Kathy and Hareton, they both never, while Kathy focused initially on the harm, for the initial few years it was natural. Her husband died, she was taken away from her father, so it is very natural for her to feel bitter towards Heathcliff in the initial few years. But after a few years of living with Heathcliff, she slowly shifted her attention away from the harm that Heathcliff did. And after she had shifted her attention away, she focused on whatever else she had control in her life, that she still had going in her life. And that's how she started teaching Hareton. She found a higher purpose in teaching Hareton. She found a higher purpose in connecting with whatever else was going on in that life when she was living in Wuthering Heights. And that's how, Catherine shifted her narrative from the darkness she could have been pulled into, but she slowly transitioned out of that darkness. So I hope this was informative, and I would love to hear comments from you, or anything you felt was interesting about these videos. Please post about it. I would love to hear it. Thank you very much. Or if there are any other stories you want a little bit this kind of discussion on, maybe you can give me some suggestions of those stories, and if I've read them, I may either reread them or make an analysis if I already have some analysis about that story, or understand that many things that I post in these videos are guided understandings based either on my own life experiences and then assimilation of that experience, or are something that the universe is guiding me to understand at this point of time in my life journey too. So as I'm teaching on these, some of these experiences are new for me to also learn about and assimilate in my life, in my future or present. So I am also learning and teaching at the same time. So again, anyone has any comments, I would love to hear. Thank you very much. Have a great day.